Everyone, so we're on week 5. This week we're talking about sexual violence and sports. I define sexual violence as and excuse me, I have lost my voice. Sorry. Sexual violence is a sexual act that is forced onto someone using violence of some sort. We also talked in our discussions about the correlation between sexual violence and aggression in sports. For me, I do not, despite what some research has said, I don't believe there's an actual correlation between aggression in sports and sexual violence. I believe what separates those two is morality. When you play sports, you are invested, and your opponent is also willingly invested in the sport and activity. Whereas in sexual violence, there is one half of the equation is I'm not willing or not consenting to the sexual act, which is causing sexual violence. So I believe there's a large amount of morality that's involved in that. So I don't believe that aggression in sports leads to aggression and sexual violence. I believe more that it's a scapegoat, and saying that, oh, well, this football player is super aggressive in their sport, so that explains why they're sexually violent. I just don't believe that that's the same thing or correlated, being that I just think there's a lot of morality that is involved, and in sexual violence there's a huge lack of morality, where as in sport, aggression is kind of valued or wanted at some extent, in regards to following the rules. So I don't believe those are really combined or relevant or reflect one another. In regards to the role that a sport leader can play, I believe that as someone who is an assistant coach at a college, that it's super important for me as a coach and for us as a coaching staff to address sexual violence, in educating and preventing it. At the college level, there's such an issue involving sexual violence that it seems almost wrong for a college coach to not educate their athletes and talk about this. And it could be anywhere from educating their athletes on the resources that survivors may have to them, or the resource they have to go to if they're in a relationship that they feel could lead to sexual violence, to even preventing it. At the college level, drinking and binge drinking are a huge thing, and having students be aware and saying, hey, don't walk home alone, educating them on who they can call if they don't feel safe, stuff like that, just educating and preparing them, and kind of worrying about this before it even happens, instead of after the fact, that if it unfortunately were to happen to a certain sport team, to go back and say, hey, this is a problem, this is what we need to talk about. Being proactive about it, talking about it now, trying to educate my athletes now instead of later. So hopefully this doesn't happen to anyone. And in regards to a personal story, actually the college I attended, SUNY Cortland, in the past year there was a football player who was at a party, and went and heard someone yelling in a bathroom, and it ended up being a sexual assault. Sexual violence was occurring, and he stopped it. And that's what I did my reflection and application about. There's this whole story about him and how he stopped it, and he kind of talked about, gave his insight from some of his teammates, some of his coaches. His teammates are calling him a hero, which to me, that kind of shows that his actions are showing his teammates how important it is to step up and not be a bystander in these situations. It also had, quotes from his coach that said that he's a hero, and there's like a highlight for him, and it's crazy how this, young man stepped up to stop something so serious, and, he got shot twice in the act and had to face serious recovery and serious hardship to get back to playing football. But overall, he knew he did the right thing. And in the end of the article, he says that, he shouldn't be looked at as a hero. That this stuff is happening all the time, so someone stepping up and stopping it should be normal. That it shouldn't be a one time and an amazing thing that he's a hero for. That it should be something that people are stepping up to and stopping all the time. So all in all, kind of in conclusion, that I don't think, especially in this situation where we have a football player in a very aggressive sport stopping domestic and sexual violence, I don't think they're correlated. I do think as a sport leader that I or other coaches have a big role in educating and stopping sexual violence. And also, I believe that there are many ways to look at this very sad and unfortunate, situation in a positive light, and that's why I kind of used this article to talk about how, despite playing an aggressive sport, this young man stepped up and stopped sexual violence and didn't, was not just a bystander. He stepped up and took action. And I think that's what's really important to kind of look at and focus on, in today's world of collegiate athletics, as well as the collegiate lifestyle, which sometimes unfortunately includes sexual violence. Thanks.